Hi everybody, it's so good to be with all of you today. My name is Dr. Annie Wu and I'm VP of Education here at Murad. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself before we get started. I've been in the beauty industry for about 20 years and I'm really excited to be a part of the Murad brand because I'm such a fan of Dr. Murad and his philosophies on overall health and beauty. I've always been someone who is interested in the mind-body connection. This started in undergraduate when I did a lot of classes in the neurosciences, and even in medical school, all the brain and neurology classes were my favorite. And this brand just has a lot of amazing things to say in the world, and I feel like if we all say them louder, the world will be a better place. I'm also a huge fan of all of you out there. From my years in beauty, I also know how important all of you are to your clients. You go out there every day, you're passionate about this industry, and you do what you do because of people. So thank you. We have been talking a lot about how to best support the hardworking professionals, and we've decided to tackle this topic of stressed skin. It's particularly relevant now, and you'll be seeing a lot of it when you go back to your spas and salons. There's quite a bit of confusion about it among clients for sure, even amongst professionals. And if you know Dr. Murad, you know that this brand is a great one to tackle this and to provide some clarity. So today what you're going to be getting out of the session is a definition on what stressed skin is, how it comes about, and tips on how to approach it both topically as well as emotionally. And hopefully this will help both you as well as your clients. So let's get started. First, let's talk a little bit about Dr. Murad. For those of you that don't know him, he is an amazing man, such an innovator. This image of him in the white lab coat is probably the most well-known. He is a very well-respected dermatologist, has won many awards, was a professor at UCLA, and he's actually often known as the first doctor's brand. He started this brand in so many years ago when he actually used to say that other dermatologists kind of told him not to do it, but he is an innovator and forged ahead. And what is different about him today, now that there are many doctors' brands out there, are two main things. One is that he is a wellness pioneer. So long before the word wellness was as popular as it is now, what he did in his practice was observe, you know, I can have the most advanced treatments, I can have the most advanced technologies, but there's something else that makes the skin look healthy and vibrant. It's not just topical solutions. And he took those observations, studied them, and came up with his holistic approach, and he is very well respected for this approach within the professional space. And it's in your space that you can activate this the best. Your clients will listen to you on tips on diet, on exercise, on mental health, and that is what Doctor is really well known for. So this image of him, playful, this wellness pioneer, it's just as much a part of Doctor as Doctor in the white lab coat. Something else that is unique about Doctor is before he was a dermatologist, he was actually a trained pharmacist. What's unique about that is that pharmacists are experts at combining medications or drugs in a way that is customized to the person. And it's this pharmacy background that has given him a unique approach to formulation. And you know, for your clients, they are going to talk about how efficacious the products are. Murad is very well known for that. Look at, you know, any review site, our products really work. And much of that comes from Doctor's pharmacy background. So let's talk about what's happening in the world today. You know, COVID-19, it's nothing that any of us ever expected, but in some ways it is an example of what Doctor has been talking about for 30+ years. Doctor wrote this book called Conquering Cultural Stress. I recommend you check it out if you haven't before. But he talked about that the biggest threat to health and wellness today is nothing other than the stress that we impose upon ourselves. It is the fact that we feel like we have to answer every email within the hour. We don't get enough sleep because we're so busy. It's a way of living that is very, very different than our ancestors did. And it has profound effects on our health and overall well-being, as well as our looks. And we'll get into that in just a moment. So let's talk about stress skin. I think the word stress can be used in a lot of different ways in the community, but stress skin to Murad has a very specific definition. And it comes from this internal pathway of cortisol that is part of our fight or flight response. Many of you probably remember it from high school biology, but it is a set of, I would say, transmitters that happen in the body when you're stressed. And it was not anticipated to be used at all times. This was what I remember my biology teacher as saying, if you're running away from a lion, this system gets turned on. And let's talk a little bit about what happens when it gets turned on. So your body has to get prepared to essentially flight. So things like cell turnover and looking beautiful is not important at that moment. Reproduction is not important. So your blood gets shunted away from that. Also, things like even your digestive system. It's not important to digest when you are running away from a lion, so your blood gets turned away from that. But if you do that on a long-term basis, that's where the problem is. So this is a good slide to remember. Cortisol was designed to handle short-term stress, not chronic stress. This is another book that I recommend if you like to read about nonfiction things. This was one of my professors. It's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. It's a great read. And Dr. Sapolsky was another leading researcher in this subject, where he actually studied primates in the wild for 20 plus years. And there's certain primates that have a hierarchy system. It's really interesting. So there are like dominant ones, and then there are more submissive ones. And the dominant ones actually stress out their submissive friends. Doesn't sound nice, but that's what happens. And so what Dr. Sapolsky did was he actually studied these animals and found that there is a direct correlation, even in animals, of high levels of cortisol with things like high blood pressure, atherosclerosis, all the things that we know also to be a result of a high stress lifestyle. And so, all this is to say that this stress skin is a result of this cortisol cascade, but it doesn't stop with just the skin. It is everywhere. And that's why doctor believes it's the biggest threat to our overall health and wellness. So let's talk about how stress impacts the skin specifically. So external stressors, that is COVID-19, that comes along with bad news, finances, tough things in careers. So many people are hurting right now. And what happens is that turns on that flight or fight response, which is that cortisol. And it causes specific changes in the skin that you see as things like dehydration and dullness, dark circles and puffiness, expression lines, breakouts. Sometimes you'll just hear clients saying, people say I look tired. It's sometimes even hard to describe exactly what's happening, but they know their skin isn't looking healthy. And that is all a result of this stress or cortisol cascade. A few other things, specifics to know about how skin responds to cortisol. Remember what I said about when you're running away from a lion, it's not the time to exfoliate. Your skin doesn't turn over as well when it's under high amounts of cortisol. Your skin also isn't proliferating, so your collagen isn't as strong or as smooth. You actually have problems with your immune system. I think many of us have heard, oh, when I'm stressed out, I get sick more. So your immune system in your skin doesn't function as well, which can lead to that redness and inflammation. Also what happens is that blood is being diverted away from the skin, so you can actually have more dark circles and puffiness. And it increases your sebaceous glands, so you can actually cause oiliness and comedones, breakouts. You'll often hear clients talking about, oh, I'm stressed, I'm getting broken out. This is the reason why. So, a lot of studies have now come out on stress and aging, and we have research that shows that people with a high baseline cortisol, they look about 3.5 years older. Some of you may have seen in the US, there's been studies that show that presidents before and after office look, I think, many more years older than that, and that's because of the stress of the role. A high stress lifestyle is also associated with telomere shortening, which is equivalent to 9 to 17 years of aging. So again, all of this to underscore a doctor's point, which is, stress is the biggest threat to our overall health and wellness. So what does that mean for you when you are back in your spa and salon? What are you looking for when your clients come in? I want to do a little bit of a breakdown between stressed skin and a compromised barrier. They can look the same, but they're not exactly the same. And I think it's important to understand the difference between the two. So skin barrier compromise, many of you know very well. It can come from internal things or external things. Things like some people are just more prone to this, and so that's why you have rosacea or psoriasis. If you have too aggressive skincare or cold weather or irritants, external things can also cause this. So this is a breakdown of all the elements of the top layers of skin that can then let irritants and other things that shouldn't be in the skin through, and that's what causes the redness and irritation that's associated with skin barrier damage. You'll see this in this picture here. A healthy barrier keeps the bad things out. Skin is the largest organ in the body. It keeps a lot of bad things out. So here's a picture of a healthy and a compromised skin barrier. You'll see that in a healthy barrier, it keeps all those bad things out, and your skin is the largest organ. It keeps a lot of those bad things out. But if you have a compromised barrier, it starts to let those things in. And that's when you see that redness and irritation that's associated with inflammation. You are more susceptible to damage than someone that doesn't have a compromised barrier. You also start to lose the actual components of your skin, the inter and intracellular components. So what's important to understand is that a compromised barrier looks like stressed skin, and on some level it is, but stressed skin is much, much deeper than even a compromised barrier. And so when you go back into your clinics and offices, a lot of times people might not even be able to express that their skin is stressed. But when you ask them about their lifestyle and what's been going on in their life, you can actually, it's almost subclinical. For those that are under the severest stress, you will see it. But you can almost assume when you are seeing your clients, when you go back, is that a lot of people are going to have this stressed skin. So now we go to what can we do about it? So I'd like to underline this point that all of you as service providers are really care providers. And Dr. Murad has been the biggest proponent of this for many years. Long before the word Medi-Spa was out there in the world, he had professionals like yourself working side by side him because he knew the value of professionals complementing a dermatologist's office. And what you do in your spas and salons makes a huge difference in the life of your clients. So let's talk about some specifics. First and foremost, the skin wellness consultation. I like to think of you as really a healthcare provider. So it's not just asking about the topical elements of the skin, things like, what is your skin concern and what are your, and how oily or dry your skin is, although those are very important, particularly at Murad, but all of you can also ask about diet, exercise, stress levels. That really makes a complete consultation. And before you even choose what treatment to use on your client, this will give you a lot of information on, which treatment to choose on that particular day. You're going to know the best after this consultation. So after you've assessed your client's skin, now it's time for the treatment. And if you follow Dr. Murad's philosophies, you don't just stop at the surface of the skin. So he identified these 4 pillars to total skin health. So of course, we're going to talk about nourish your skin. These are those topical actives and ingredients and treatments that we know are going to make the skin look and feel better. But he also was very, very passionate about the wellness pillars of eat your water. So doctor knows that to be completely hydrated, you need to actually eat your water, not just drink your water. So a full consultation also talks about what's your diet look like and how many fruits and vegetables are you eating. And this can be part of your consultation as well. Awaken your body. This is really exercise. And in doctor's words, muscle holds more water than fat does. And so when you have more muscle, you're actually a more hydrated person, a more healthy person. And so he often talks about how exercise is a critical part of total skin wellness, as well as total body wellness. And he always talks about you should just pick the exercise that you like the best. There's no one right answer. And then there's the be kind to your mind. And that is the most, I would say, directly related to our topic today, which is, how to manage stressed skin. You really want to manage the stress at the source. So, how do you de-stress from everything that's going on in the world? We're going to talk about that. So when we talk about, how do you approach someone's skin who is stressed? Exfoliation is really important because, as we talked about, skin under stress doesn't exfoliate, it doesn't proliferate the way skin that isn't under stress. So you want to choose the appropriate exfoliation for your skin. And this can present a little bit of a challenge because when clients come in, I know they're looking for that high performance. You have those clients out there that says, more is more. But you also know that they may have this underlying stress. So what do you do? We're going to talk about no downtime exfoliation. That's one Murad approach. So our formulas are created so that you get intense exfoliation without the downtime. And these peels or these exfoliation techniques are an efficacious way to rev up that cell turnover without irritating the skin. So it's essentially exfoliation almost built into the idea that your skin is under stress. And so looking for formulations and products like this, I think is particularly important under this time. A couple other things you can do for your home care is that you need to make sure that they are well hydrated. I think this goes without saying, but choosing for them really soothing and hydrating ingredients is really, really important. And you need to make sure that they're at least going home with a moisturizer. And in another session we can talk more about this, but there's a very unique product within the Murad line that's called Revitalixer, and it's specifically targeted for stressed skin. I call it Stress PF. Just like you need SPF to protect from the sun, you need this Stress PF to protect from the stressors so your skin doesn't look stressed. So choosing this type of home care and customizing that to complement your professional treatments is really critical during this time. And then let's talk about the importance of how you formulate for stressed skin. This is something that's very near and dear to Doctor because of his holistic approach on skin wellness. So Murad's approach number 1 is performance, not percentages. And this is based on his pharmacy principles. I know this is a tough conversation because we all like to talk about percentages. It's common in the industry. But Doctor has always been very passionate that we don't talk about percentages. And when you ask him why, it really comes down to being honest about efficacy. So it's interesting. This next slide I think will be a good illustration. So as an example, in pharmacy, you're always trying to get more without irritation in a lot of ways. So think about acetaminophen or ibuprofen, like headache medicine. If you have a more intense headache, the idea would be, oh, maybe you up the ibuprofen or acetaminophen. The problem with that is that it will cause internal issues, and so that wasn't a solution for everybody. And so what pharmacists found is that if you add caffeine to ibuprofen, you can up the efficacy of your ibuprofen without having to increase the amount of ibuprofen. And that is actually something that's really interesting. And that is how Dr. Murad has approached his formulas since the beginning, that percentage isn't everything. And so thinking about this and looking a little bit more into this principle, I think is particularly relevant for skin under stress, because some of those ingredients that we know and love, as they go higher, they can cause some irritation. So looking for these types of formulation principles is really key. The other approach that Doctor has had is that results depend on cellular wellness. And this is what I call based on his holistic patient observation. So Doctor could see in his patients at the office that the same treatments didn't work the same on everybody. It's kind of like you have to think about the grade of gasoline as well as the type of engine that you have. So what he observed and what he realized is that treatments, think your retinols and glycolic acids, those types of high performance treatments work better on skin that is healthy. It may seem like a simple principle, but it's really quite profound and really important. So built into all of our formulas is cellular wellness ingredients that keeps the cell healthy to maximize those ingredients. So our formulation recipe, it's kind of like Dr. Murad in a formula. So he starts as a scientist with those proven active, take for example, like a glycolic acid. You have an active accelerator, so that would be like the caffeine to the ibuprofen. And then you have this cellular wellness technology that keeps the entire cell healthy. And that recipe is what makes our products so efficacious, and why professionals like yourself love to use them. With our home care products, our clients love them. This is really the driving reason for why the product's performance is so high. Here's another little illustration on that cellular wellness technology. So probably very familiar to a lot of you. There's free radicals and inflammatory mediators that essentially damage the skin. We use antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, and hydrators to protect the skin. So built into every formula is this cellular wellness technology, and that essentially increases or maximizes the efficacy of those high performance ingredients. Now let's talk about, after your skincare, to be I would say, holistic caretaker, you want to talk about these things to your clients, because they may not even know. You may be opening their eyes to something that's unfamiliar with them. So let's talk about internal hydration. Doctor says by eating water-rich fruits and vegetables, nutrients are better absorbed for skin health. So during this time, recommending, those daily fruits and vegetables, those daily antioxidants, they are essentially protecting you from that stress. There's, many studies that shows a healthy diet is protective against the effects of stress. And so this is something that you can also recommend to your clients or incorporate into your spa and salon. Awaken your body. You want to get moving to manage stress. So this works in a couple of different ways. So when you exercise, you actually release endorphins, which are those, I would say, mediators in the body. They call them almost like the happy hormones. They combat the effects of stress. And then at the same time, when you exercise, you actually decrease the amount of cortisol and adrenaline. So it's actually working in two different ways. That's why exercise has been so related to even people that have like true diagnosis of depression or anxiety. They are oftentimes prescribed exercise because they've been clinically proven to help. And then, of course, increased circulation also keeps the skin healthy. When you exercise, that circulation does increase, and your skin is the largest organ. And so it's going to bring more nutrients to the skin, flush away anything that the skin doesn't need, and it keeps the skin healthier overall. And then finally, probably what doctors best known for is this be kind to your mind. Stress intervention. So you can recommend a variety of different stress relievers to your client. People will find their own. But one that is very well known at Murad is this stress intervention insight card study that Doctor did. So it was simple. Doctor has many of these insights that he's written over the years. There's over 500 of them. And what he did was he printed out a number of these on cards and he gave them to patients to read. So that's all they did, is that they took these insight cards home, they read about it, they read these insight cards daily, they journaled, and he studied the effect on their bodies. And you can actually see this almost looked like she's had a professional treatment. And this was simply from including this pillar of wellness into her life, this impact of stress intervention on the skin. I think this is a great illustration of why, as a caretaker, not only is your client coming to you for topical recommendations, you can be the one to introduce these things to his or her life and have an even greater impact on their overall health and well-being. So I wanted to conclude with our purpose because I think it's important. I'm just going to read it for all of you. Inspired by Dr. Murad's lifetime commitment to science-backed wellness, we create products and experiences not only for healthier skin, but happier lives. At Murad, we're committed to conquering the global health epidemic of stress. Stress less, be imperfect, live longer. We want to thank you all so much for tuning in today. We hope that this session gave some clarity around what stressed skin is and what you can do about it in your spas and salons. Thank you for being fans of Murad. We're here for you, and we look forward to the next time.